Good evening, Warriors, and welcome in to another edition of the R&R Sports Report right here on 88.9 KLCZ FM Radio Lewiston. I am your host, Randy Isbell, and with me, as always, is Robert Hagan. Robert, how is it going tonight, sir?
Well, with the weather coming in, it felt like I was getting blown into the parking lot, but hopefully it's not one of those advisories to the point of it's going to be bad weather for the next few days, but
it's possible. Right now, 43 degrees outside, 15-mile-an-hour winds, and it felt like more than that when we were coming into the studio tonight.
Yeah, it was freezing, but as you and I were walking in, we were talking about college stuff, and it's just weird to, it's been a few years since I've walked a college campus, and to still see nobody out here at 4:30 in the afternoon,
right?
Just kind of crazy.
We got one more week for the Warriors before we start our spring semester, and then we'll see how it is. It's still weird to me. I mean, just coming to college is at 36 years old, coming back to school, but then coming back to school and all of this COVID stuff, and it's still really not the same. You walk between classes and you can tell that only like a third of the people are going through because of, COVID protocols, and a lot of classes going on Zoom or half on Zoom or things like that. So it's just awkward anyways. But now, like you said, we're a week before things start, and just it feels like a ghost town at 4:30.
Well, you and I were just talking a few minutes ago before we walked out of the studio, and one of your advisors come walking in, the station advisors, and he's the last one here in the building besides you and I. So I guess we got to lock up when we leave.
And you can also check us out on the R&R Sports Report on Facebook and YouTube. That's where you can contact us and message live. And I would like you guys, if you're watching early, to let us know. We're trying a different mic situation in the studio for the online stuff. I'm curious how it sounds. When I went to go do the clips and stuff that I was talking about last week, the audio was not to my liking, so I'm just waiting, and we're messing around with some stuff. So let us know how that sounds, and we'll tweak some stuff as we go. But let's get right into it, because we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to start with the college championship game that happened last night. And that thing was over so fast, and I felt so bad. I really thought Ohio State had a chance, but that was not the case. Alabama rolls 52-24, and I don't even know if it was that close. It didn't help that Trey Sermon, the running back for Ohio State, got hurt on the first play. It looked like he may have broken his collarbone. His left collarbone, was unable to lift his arm up at all. Ended up going to the hospital during the game. His mom has come out saying everything's okay, and he went back to Columbus today. That's a big blow for Ohio State, who really, really needed a near perfect game to beat Alabama.
Didn't they say that he came back to the stadium? They wanted the ambulance to bring him back to the stadium where he could finish watching it. But yeah, you're right. That the way he was holding that arm and everything, it looked like there was just no motion whatsoever. So, or you're gonna think that was a major stinger if that's that point of it's not broken. So it'll be interesting to see what the tests come. He's got to go through a bunch more tests there in Columbus when he gets back.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and just a shame to see it's going to be his last game with the Buckeyes. I believe he would have one more year of eligibility just because of the way COVID and stuff worked, but he most likely is going to go into the NFL draft. So just a sad way for him to finish his college career, and just the same for all of the Buckeyes who it was a tough day, especially on defense. They had no answer for Alabama, who just looked like they could score on a whim. It didn't really matter to them. How many times in that first half did Ohio State stop Alabama to a 3rd down and 4, 3rd down and 5, or even a 4th and 1 or 2, and Alabama would just pick it up, and you never had any doubt?
Yeah, it was tough for me. I didn't get the opportunity to watch until the second half, so just watching even the demeanor of the boys playing there in the second half, coming out of the gate, they just looked like they were defeated when they came back out, and trying to put all the pressure on Justin Fields, but, tip his hat. He tried all he could, and Teague, he looked really well from when he played in those middle few games for the season for them. He looked great. I mean, 65 yards, 2 touches. I'm not going to sniff at that if I was the main guy coming back into it.
How cool of a name is Master Teague the Third?
That sounds like something I would use if I was gaming, man.
All right.
And a new gaming, handle. Maybe that's what I should change my Twitter. We were talking about that still.
Take his name as your Twitter name.
Yeah.
Dwayne says we're coming in loud and clear. So thank you, Dwayne. And Dwayne, get ready to bowl. It's coming back soon. I hope Lancers is coming back soon. We can only hope. Let's look at the Alabama stats because it's just ridiculous. Mac Jones throws for 464 yards, which is a college football playoff record. Also throws for 5 touchdowns. Najee Harris, who only ends up with 79 yards, which is kind of surprising for how well he played. I must be, 7 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown. That's where he was doing a lot of his damage. But the main story is Devontae Smith, your Heisman Trophy winner, wins Offensive Player of the Game, or just Player of the Game. 12 catches, 215 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he was hurt on like the second or third play of the second half, his first target of the second half, where he was kind of led a little bit by Mac Jones, ran into the defender, and dislocated his finger and was in the blue tent forever.
I think they had him at like 24 minutes or something before he
finally came out, went right back to the locker room, did not return to the play. They just could not get it to pop back in, basically. But they didn't need him. I know Nick Saban had said that he was very disappointed because he wanted to be out there for the second half. But, God, what a player. I mean, Ohio State had 0 answers to him, whether it was just the way that the formations were set or getting him in motion. They were always able to find space, or just the fact that he would just outrun his defender at all costs. He is so fast. And I'm saying it right now. I've changed my mind. I know the Jets want to trade down, or I want the Jets to trade down from 2. But if you don't think you're going to be able to get him, I want the Jets to draft Devontae Smith at number 2.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great pick of that spot. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how things work out for your team, but I don't see that. I really don't see him making it that far in that position.
No.
But what they got him listed?
He's a top 5 pick.
Yeah, but you look at his frame and tell me, who does he remind you of? And I know, and I think it's the numbers are a little stretched out here. They've got him listed 6'1", 175. I don't think he's 6'1". I really don't think
he's a small frame for sure.
But for me, and maybe this is just a comparison, seeing him, I can see a cross between 2 players.
Okay.
And tell me if I'm wrong, which he probably will. I can see a little bit of Wayne Corvette in him, with the size wise.
I think Wayne Corvette was bigger. I mean, Wayne Corvette was short, but he had more of a structure to him.
And the other one is Steve Smith.
And
Steve
Smith
Senior, I should say.
Steve Smith Senior too, I think, was a little bulky. Maybe I'm just remembering Smith, later on in his career, and not just out of college. Maybe after out of college he was smaller.
Wayne Corvette 5'10".
Well, that's fine. I'm just talking weight wise.
Right. 5'10", 188 is what they had him at in his playing time.
And that's even smaller than I thought. But honestly, for me, Devontae Smith seems like stature-wise, he reminds me of Tyreek Hill. Yes. No, he's not as fast as Tyreek Hill, but he has better hands than Tyreek Hill. But just as far as like body structure goes, he reminds me a lot of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. And Wayne Corvette's got Steve Smith by 1 inch. 1 inch, 5'9". It's crazy. 5'9". Yeah, no kidding. But that's who he kind of reminded me of. Watching him cutting in and out of routes and stuff. And I'm not saying Steve Smith was the best route runner, because he wasn't. I mean, he would make things happen, but I can see a lot of both of those guys in his play. So I'm interested. I really am. And the names that were being thrown out today, what your Jets are going to do at number 2. Do they take Justin Fields?
They trade down. No, they cannot.
But I'm saying, I mean, I've heard all kinds of things today. I heard Jeremiah, I'm drawing a blank. He was on Dan Patrick today, but from the NFL analysts. But they Daniel Jeremiah, and he had the idea of what happens if they take Justin Fields. Is there a chance of that happening?
I-
I honestly think Mac,
I 100% agree with Jordan here. He reminds Deshaun Jackson as far as
there you go.
about his body frame. Absolutely.
I would agree with that.
Honestly, if the Jets take a quarterback, it's Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and that was the other name that popped up. But where does Mac Jones fit in the picture? Because I like the way he is picked. I mean, he was a top finalist as a Heisman, but I don't see him going anywhere in the top probably 10.
I don't think he's going in the first round. I think he's an early second round pick. He might have upped his draft stock here in the playoffs. He's played really well. And it all kind of depends on who really needs a quarterback. And we'll get into the draft a lot more and break things down as we still try to fill out some football time, even though we won't have as much football. But I don't know if I see Mac Jones as a first-round pick, even now.
I could see.
Unless somebody trades up and gets him, like a Baltimore situation.
I could see him be a decent fit in Atlanta.
But he's not going to go that high.
No, there's no way he'll go forward. I mean, have to be like an Atlanta dropping down. I mean, there's lots of scenarios, especially with the whole situation going on with Deshaun wanting out, and what does Houston do? And there was the idea of Houston and Miami making huge trades with Tua and all that too. They were talking about that today. I'm like,
well,
they have to give up a lot of stuff.
Do you believe the first two picks in the NFL draft, quarterback-wise, are going to be Zach Wilson and Jalen Hurts?
You mean Trevor Lawrence?
Oh, and Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, okay. He's locked into number one.
Yeah,
as a Jets fan, he's out of my mind now.
If New York wants to get away from Sam Darnold, I could see.
Well, even if they don't, I can see Hurts ending up going. I'm just saying, after Trevor Lawrence, is it set in stone that it's Wilson from BYU and Hurts from Ohio State?
You mean Fields from Ohio State?
God, listen,
you got Philly on the brain.
I got lots on the brain right now. Yes, Hurts, Fields, one of those two.
Well,
who knows? Philly's such a mess right now. Anyways, we'll get to them on whether they're going to go Wentz or Hurts. So I mean, who knows there? So Fields, Wilson, and Lawrence. Are we set on those being the first three quarterbacks?
I think so. I think so. 100%. 100%.
Okay. So you look at the draft board real quick. We just got a little bit. Obviously, Jacksonville's taking Lawrence. If the Jets don't take one of those quarterbacks, we go down the draft board. Miami's not going to take a quarterback, right?
No. I like to.
So Atlanta's the next one.
I think
Atlanta might take one of those two. Cincinnati won't.
Cincinnati will go.
Philadelphia won't. Detroit might. Detroit at 7.
Right behind, playing if Matt Stafford comes back for one more year.
Well, I think Stafford comes back.
I think he does too. That would be an interesting pick for.
So at that point, those are your three quarterbacks off the board, and then you would think Mac Jones is 4th in the QB board.
Probably.
So then we keep going. Would Carolina take a quarterback at 8?
Who you got there? Bridgewater.
Bridgewater right now.
But I don't even know who his backup is.
It switches all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think so. I don't think Denver does. I don't think Dallas does. Giants don't. 49ers at 12. It still seems too high for Mac Jones. But that's a great fit.
I would disagree a little bit with maybe New York. If the whole thing plays out the way that I'm thinking it does, Daniel Jones just has not put up the numbers that he was all hyped about. I could see a quarterback going in that spot.
I just don't. They have other needs that they.
Well, yeah. I mean, they need linemen. They've got one decent guy there, Andrew Thomas as a lineman. They need a lot of help. They need a lot of help at the line. So I mean, I could see it happening, but I think they go offensive line and get some protection for safety.
So I just looked up on CBS. They have one of their mock drafts. One quarterback that we're just not thinking of because obviously we're not scouts. And he only played one game this year. and that's Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. And CBS has Trey Lance as the fourth quarterback off the board. And that, I mean, from everything I've heard, and I remember all the hype coming in on the one game that North Dakota State was going to play this year, on all the focus was on him. So that could kind of throw a thing. CBS right now, they came out with a mock draft 2 days ago. They have Mac Jones going 19th to Washington. Wow. I kind of like that.
They need something. I mean, as much as we've got the feel-good story of Alex Smith, you know, he might decide it's hang it up after this comeback and you know and have to deal with the other leg issue, you know, and it's such a
we're looking
carousel there
at possibly another 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. We'll have some fun with it as we go, but which position gets drafted more in the first round? Wide receivers, which are deep this year, or quarterbacks?
I think it's going to be quarterbacks. As much as deep the receivers are, there's a lot more need in the NFL this year for offensive line. Seattle. I mean, Seattle's got to figure something out, or they're going.
Well, Seattle doesn't have a first round pick.
No, but I'm saying they've got to go somewhere, either trade to get back up into a pick and get a lineman. You know, we could use a little help in Baltimore. I mean, we've got a couple of guys that have had some issues, so I think it'll probably be quarterback, and then round 2, watch all of the wide receivers come off. But I got a name for you, and it's going to be on the other side of the ball, and that's that Christian Barmore. You watched him in the second half of that game, that championship game yesterday. Just a sophomore, 5 tackles, 1 sack. And then 3 of the tackles were for loss. He is currently the second DL defensive lineman in the country. Do you think he goes and gets drafted?
Oh, he'll get drafted.
Do you think he leaves Alabama, or does he come back and play one more season?
Kind of depends on where he would fit.
So then we're back.
He's a sophomore, right? He has one more year. He has to go one more year. You have to be 3 years, right?
Is it 3?
Yeah.
I thought it was just 2. I
believe it's 3.
Yeah,
because that's why, like, Baker Mayfield had to wait, and who's the other guy that went to Cleveland that was a complete bust that I've thrown out of my mind?
Johnny.
Yeah, or Manziel.
Yeah,
because he won the Heisman as a freshman, and he still had 2 more years to play, I believe.
It'll be interesting to see how things roll out over the next few weeks. But I tell you what, that kid is impressive to watch. You know what they say, he was like 6'5", 310, and he was just blowing through that offensive line of Ohio State. It'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, Christian Barmore, sophomore, 6'5", 310 pounds is what they have listed on ESPN. But yeah, I do believe he has another year to go. Let's move on to just some more NCAA news as a couple of coaching situations go. So ex-Auburn defensive coordinator Kevin Steele, the head coach at Tennessee, is that what that was?
No, he's just signing on
part of it.
That. He's part of the team now for Tennessee as a defensive coach again.
So just moving around.
Yeah, moving again. You know, and that all comes from the signing after Auburn's head coach leaves. So that was a little bit of moving around. So quite interesting there.
And obviously Boise State's coach goes to Auburn, right? Or am I losing my mind?
Yep.
So Boise State signed Andy Avalos. I feel bad if I butcher his name, but he is now their 11th different head coach. He was a linebacker for Boise State back between 2001, 2005. Coached there from 2012 to 2018 between defensive line coach and linebacker coach, and was the defensive coordinator from 2016 to 2018. He went to Oregon in 2019 to be their defensive coordinator and helped the Oregon defense go from the 49th ranked defense to the 9th ranked defense between 2018 and 2019. I didn't look up what 2020 was because it was half a year for the Pac-12, and that was a complete mess. But it's going to be really interesting, I think, for Boise State. So obviously he knows the culture. He's been there a long time, very focused on the defense. I think this is a good hire for the Broncos.
Yeah, I think so too. After Kellen Moore said, I'm going to stick around, which I think is a good call. Kellen sticking around because I really like, and we'll talk about that move here in a little bit, what Dallas did today. So I think it was smart. The one that I was a little shocked about is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh signs his extension through 2025. He's scheduled to make $4 million this year, and I think by 2025 it's like $4.4 million. But he's got over $1 million in signing bonuses and all that each year if he makes the playoffs, if he makes the championship game. I mean, he's got a lot of incentives that is possible and happening. So it'll be interesting to see what Jim Harbaugh. But I was shocked that they signed him for.
I have always been a component that the hate on Harbaugh in Michigan has been overblown. It's just Ohio State is so much better in the Big Ten that, I mean, everyone else is losing to Ohio State. Why is everyone freaking out because Harbaugh is losing at Michigan? When's the last time Michigan was good? Like in the mid-90s? So it wasn't like they were a perennial powerhouse and he's making them fall apart. It takes time to rebuild these programs. And when you have somebody like Ohio State, who is a close rival, a lot of these kids are going to go to Ohio State way before they go to Michigan. So it's an uphill battle for a lot of these coaches. Just look at Alabama now and how dominant they are. And these schools, I mean, everyone reams on Georgia for always making that one mistake of missing out on the playoffs, but they are so far behind Alabama. It's ridiculous. And it shows every year when we get the playoffs.
Who was the last big name to come out of Michigan?
Who knows?
Well, you had Desmond Howard, but
Are you thinking Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Was it that long ago? I'm sure there's good players that have come out of
2000, Michigan. And Desmond Howard was, I believe, in 91. He was part of that quiz that we had last week.
There's got to be better players.
But I mean, look at
there's a defensive player, Clowney, right? Did Clowney come out of Michigan?
I don't remember where he was from. That's one of those gray areas, especially growing up here in the Pac West, Pac-12 area, or back when it was still Pac-10.
No, he was South Carolina. Yeah. Who was Michigan? Or maybe he had tackled a Michigan player. There was that big tackle behind the line of scrimmage that went viral forever. And maybe it was the Michigan player that got crushed. But anybody that's listening that might know, I'm losing my mind. I can't even remember quarterbacks' names today. So I'm blanking now on this.
Yeah, well, you had Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson was there. Desmond Howard coming out of there. Jake Long went there. I forgot about that. Steve Hutchins. I'm just looking at some of the names that come up that have been decent players. John Runyon. There's a few names on that list that are not bad. Don Deerdorf.
Jabril Peppers came out.
Yeah.
So it's something.
It's interesting to look at.
There you go. Yep. Clowney, he destroyed the Michigan player. That's what it was. That's why I have Michigan.
He's been destroying all kinds of players over the last few years. So
so stuff is in my head. It's just very jumbled around.
I know you've been talking about Hurts. Hurts is on your tongue tonight. I don't know why Jalen Hurts is on your mind.
Well, there's another former Eagle that is on my mind, and it worries me.
Uh-oh.
And we'll get there. 2021 College Football Hall of Fame class came out.
Some big names on that one.
Yeah, Bob Stoops, I'm really happy to see. Tony Romo is interesting out of Eastern Illinois.
Carson Palmer, USC.
Was it your coach that was the other quarterback out of Eastern Illinois? Tony Romo was talking about this on his broadcast or on whatever game he was calling. And there was one of the coaches that was a former quarterback out of Eastern Illinois that they are like top 3 in every category in Eastern Illinois' quarterback history. And he always talks about it.
I don't know.
You go ahead and talk about the rest of them.
I remember them. I think I remember seeing that graphic that they showed. Some other names on there. Darren Sproles makes that list. Andre Tippett. And you did talk about Bob Stoops, Rudy Hubbard, the other coach making it. The one name that was a little shocking to see make the list this early was C.J. Spiller. C.J. Spiller making that list, and the great 2021 Hall of Fame class.
Haven got it right. It was Sean Payton.
Yes, Sean Payton. Sean Payton. Haven Morphin. Leave it to one of my students to answer that question right. And he was a little sad today. I saw him today. He was sad that his Seahawks had to falter this last weekend to the Rams. So
yeah, only two players to have their numbers retired for Eastern Illinois: Tony Romo and Sean Payton.
That's crazy.
Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo gets there?
He's the number one on all those things, if I remember right, where Sean and them were 2-3, 2-3, 2-3. I think Jimmy G was one on all of them. So it'll be interesting. Speaking about Bob Stoops, and I think Bob Stoops is probably one of the best coaches to have ever coached, Bobby Bowden, and that we know Nick Saban's going to go down as the GOAT. He will be probably the greatest college football.
I don't know if there's a probably anymore.
No, not after winning his 7th. But if you had to pick who was second or third even, who would you even put there?
I stay at Alabama. I go Bear Bryant. And maybe that's only because, they made movies about that guy.
Yeah.
And there was like an ESPN show I remember watching that was based around his coaching. And I've just grown up watching a lot of stuff about Bear Bryant. I don't think Bear Bryant could have coached now with his style. But obviously way back when he was fantastic. Obviously he's second now in national championships at Alabama. So he was fantastic. So he would be my pick.
And I like that idea, but the only other name of a coach, and we've seen a lot of coaches come through WSU, Dennis Erickson, Mike Price, and even from Boise State, Chris Peterson, those guys. But the name that jumps out for me that I would probably say might be, and I don't remember if he ever had any championships. I think he had one. Was John Robinson when he was at USC. I mean, if you had to think about a coach that coached from the heart, and I was always on his guys, I think that coach was one of the first coaches I ever remember how he treated his players and how he coached the game. But I don't remember if he ever had.
That's like 78.
Yeah, I don't remember if I think he had one championship with USC before he went out into. In the National Football League, went to the Rams and did that. But I mean, do you put him in that category?
No, absolutely. Only one championship, 64% winning percentage.
I mean, that would be the only coach I could think of. I mean,
honestly, a lot of them are so old school that they were before my time. Obviously, Bear Bryant has 6 national championships. The other coaches that have 5 are Bernie Bierman from Minnesota. His first championship was in 1934. His last one was 1941. You have Woody Hayes out of Ohio State. His first championship was 1954. His last one was 1970. And then you have Howard Jones, who won 1 with Yale in 1909, and then 4 with USC in 1928 to 1939. So all of them were obviously way before my time. Obviously, if I had to pick one out of my time that I just remember the most of, I would say Spurrier, if his time at South Carolina wasn't so bad. But his time in Florida in the 90s, and obviously that's when I was watching a lot of college football, was the late 90s, high school time for me, junior high time, where I'm watching a lot of sports back then. I mean, that was the peak of Spurrier, so I think that's where it would come to my mind.
And you have to add in that Bowden family. The whole Bowden family has been done unbelievable for SEC and ACC.
We're talking about Nick Saban being the GOAT, and I just want to go through some of his stats. He's made the college football championship game in 5 of the last 6 years. Alabama has reached number 1 in the AP poll at some point in 13 straight seasons. Nick Saban's been there for 14 years. So basically, the entire time he's been there, at some point, Alabama's been number 1. That's ridiculous. He has won almost 200 games more than he's lost. He's 261, 65, and 1 as a head coach in college football.
I think the numbers speak for themselves. He is probably one of the best coaches ever. And even on the national level, if he was coach NFL, I think he's probably one of the best.
He did not have a great time in the NFL.
No, but I think if I had to categorize him, he's probably one of the best coaches ever to play. And I think I got a lot more respect for him. I was listening last night after it was all over. He was on with Scott Van Pelt, and we were listening. He was more about the kids, making it as a person, getting them to be a graduate, getting them to make the right choices to be a decent human being, man. And then after that sold me.
Well, honestly, it just shows. Man. We've talked about it all winter long. All of these schools like Florida having so many players sit out of bowl games because they're wanting to focus on the NFL draft. You had a wide receiver last night who I'm going to blank on his name now, so let me look it up in a second. But he was hobbled.
Waddle,
thank you. Who was struggling just to stay on the field, and he wanted out there.
No, I did.
And nobody opted out. Everyone wanted to play. Everyone wanted to play for the team. So team focused.
Yeah. Did you see Twitter blowing up on that last night? I mean, finally, when I got the chance to watch the second half, I pulled up my Twitter and I'm watching some of these athletes. You know, these professionals are like, why is he in there? Get him out. But I mean,
he wanted to be out there. It wasn't even that he was getting pushed. He just wanted to.
No, that just tells me. I mean, that's why he was in there coaching, or why he was in there playing. He wants to play for his coach. I mean, same thing with their center, Fredrickson. Goes out and takes the last 2 snaps in victory formation. Shouldn't have even been dressed because of his injury. He had just had surgery. And what's he do after snapping the ball twice? He goes over and picks up Nick Saban and takes him over today to shake his hand. I mean, that just tells you what those players will do for a coach.
Right.
And he, by far, will be the GOAT, will go down in history.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I had a trivia question for Robert because he always tries to stump me at the end of the show.
All right.
And everyone that is listening, I want you to play along and see if you can get it too. No looking it up.
Nope.
So we already know one, but I want you to try to name the 4 colleges that Nick Saban has coached for in his career. Wow. 2 are easy.
LSU. Just because, the only reason.
The other one where you won the championship.
Right, the other championship. Plus, that was part of the reason. You know, my late father-in-law was a huge LSU fan, and so Denise and I kind of followed that a little bit.
So those are the 2 easy ones.
Yeah, boy,
I only got 3 out of the 4 when I was thinking. I didn't even realize one of them.
I would think he'd be up in like a mid-major area.
He has one of them is a mid-major.
I'm just throwing a huge guess out there. I want to say Cincinnati, but I don't think that's right.
Correct state.
Correct state. So it's an Ohio one, huh? Miami of Ohio?
Nope.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah, I don't think he would beat Ohio State. No.
The other school that he has been in is another state. He coached 5 seasons at Michigan State from 95 to 99. And his first head coaching position in college football was actually at Toledo.
That's crazy.
Where they went 9-2 before he went off to be the defensive coordinator for the Browns in the early 90s.
I have a funny one, and then I was watching Dan Patrick this morning. Is a current coach. I didn't realize he coached with Saban or with Bear Bryant was Bruce Arians. Did you know he coached down?
He's so old.
I didn't know he was part of the coaching staff in Alabama. So that was crazy. So,
all right. So once again, we just are running long, but it's fun because I love these conversations. So we'll see where things land. But let's move to the NFL and get some NFL news. And we're going to spend the next hour and a half talking about possible locations for Deshaun Watson, because that's all you hear on Sports Talk Radio now is where will Deshaun Watson go? Nowhere. He's staying in Houston. It's just where it's going to happen. But from the rumors out there, he wants a trade because the owner said he could be a part of the GM search and the head coach search. And he offered out a name. And the Texans even hired a group to give them options for GM. And then the owner didn't even go with it, which makes no sense. Why pay a group, including Tony Dungy, to give you options, and then you just go the New England way, which Deshaun Watson tweeted about, because he didn't want another New England person. He already dealt with that with Bill O'Brien. So he's shown or is said to be very, very, very upset. He also wants Bieniemy as his head coach. Now the Texans are going to bring Bieniemy in finally for an interview, so we will see how that goes. But I'm going to ask you: does Deshaun Watson get traded, and if so, where?
You know, the biggest one that has been going and blowing up everything, and I heard, I think it was Joy Taylor talking from Colin Cowherd, and the herd was, you know, the huge moves of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So Miami would send Tua, and they were talking like 2 number ones or 2 number ones and a 2 and Tua just to get Deshaun there, just to get him out. But
how funny would it be if Miami traded back the pick that they got from Houston back to Houston,
right,
into the Deshaun Watson trade?
I think the biggest thing, and the one thing they were talking about was, you know, if that was to happen, they've got to change the culture in Houston. That's the main thing.
Absolutely.
And to put that pressure on Tua, if that trade was to happen, that's ugly. I mean, I can't see putting that much pressure on Tua and a new head coach to make that happen. I mean, that's just a lot on his shoulders. I like the fit of Tua in Miami. I don't see that happening. So I think Deshaun stays put. And they just draft a quarterback, maybe second round, third round.
I think they field offers. Just to see. The price is going to be so high. There are definitely a lot of locations that it would be really good for Watson, as far as if he wants to win. I heard a lot at the beginning of San Francisco. I just don't think the 49ers have enough to offer, because you have to remember the Texans, I don't believe, have a first or second round pick this year. They are $15 to $20 million over the cap already, so they can't even go out and get free agents. Will Fuller needs re-signed if they want to give Watson any kind of a target out there. They need to be in full rebuild mode, which is why, as a New York Jets fan, if there was some way that the Texans would actually move on from Watson, the Jets are the perfect fit as far as the Texans go. Now, I know Watson has a no-trade clause, and would he want to go to New York? It obviously depends on who gets hired as the head coach.
And the names that are getting thrown out in the last 2 days, that would be ugly.
You throw names out there, and honestly, I like that the Jets are interviewing everyone, and just to try to get a feel out there. But the Jets have 2 number 1 picks this year and next year. They have 2 third-round picks this year and next year, thanks to the Jamal Adams trade. They've got plenty of draft capital. They have like $80 million in cap space. So they have plenty of room to play with if they want to go get Watson. I have said you give Houston the Seattle pick, the number 1 pick from Seattle this year. You give them your own pick, number 1 pick next year. So you still have a number 1 pick. Do the Jets this year and next year. You give them the second round pick, and you give them say 2 picks between rounds 3 and 5 this year and next year, and Sam Darnold.
I don't know. I think if your team has got that many picks, and if they can stay grounded with Darnold, and Darnold did look a lot better over the last.
Yeah, but Darnold's never going to be Watson.
No, but I don't think who's going to want to keep Watson with the waves he's already starting to make and be. I think if they were smart, your Jets would use all those picks and really build a great line and get him a couple of targets up there.
That's if you believe in Darnold's that next big thing, which he really hasn't shown. I think he's going to be fine, and I think wherever he goes next might work great. I think Adam Gase was really hard on him, and it just didn't work out. But with my plan, you still have the number 2 pick. So you can get a Devontae Smith.
So here are the few teams that they're saying Deshaun Watson are rumored to be going to. Miami, which we talked about.
Yes.
You said 49ers, but I don't think John Lynch moves away from Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think they do. Not for Watson. Not for Watson. I don't
No.
think they have enough capital out there.
But here's the other name that they throw out there: Chicago Bears.
What do they have to offer? That's the thing. There are 3 teams.
I'm just
There
telling
are
you
3 teams that have 2
there.
number 1 picks this year: the Jaguars, the Dolphins, and the Jets.
Right.
And they're the 1, 2, 3 or 1. Yeah. Obviously, the Jaguars aren't going to do it because they got Trevor Lawrence locked up. So to me, it's the Jets and Dolphins because the Texans need draft picks. You can throw as many, and Paul says out there, and I agree. I mean, the NFC East is a weak conference or division, so that's perfect for Watson if he wants to try to win. There are a lot of young talent in Washington, which they can move for cheap to Houston. But I think Houston needs to be rebuilt, and they need to go full-on draft picks. And it's to me, when I was looking at it the other day, the 2 teams that have the most draft capital are the Jets and the Jaguars. And the Jaguars have Lawrence. That's the number 1 pick. So to me, not just being a Jets fan, but to me, as far as the Texans go, that is the best place to look as far as rebuild goes. Now the question is, would Watson want to do that? And then do the Texans really want Darnold?
Yeah. Oh, and lots of things could happen there. It'll be interesting. So, only time will tell over the next couple of weeks. As Bieniemy can't meet with the Jets until after their season's done. Yes. So, and we think that won't happen this next week. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, spoilers.
I know a couple of players that interesting that got signed this week. And Jared Veld here played for the Colts on Saturday and now got signed by the Packers yesterday. Same thing happened with Zach Moss going out. Buffalo Bills signed Devontae Freeman, who to the practice squad also, who played for the Giants earlier in the year. So interesting to see these 2 moves happen this late but both teams need something to happen this week. So kind of curious about that. And the other big one, and we're just going to say it, and we're going to move on because yes. I do not want to talk politics. No. Bill Belichick declines the acceptance of the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Trump.
All right, that's news. Let's move on to NFL coach and GM changes that have happened so far. Doug Peterson gone from Philadelphia, which means when we picked
you got them all right.
Which coaches were going to be fired or not fired on Black Monday, every single coach I got correct. Just took Doug Peterson a little bit to fill out my draft board.
Was that 2 thumbs up? You the guy I'm taking them all the way. Yeah,
I know all my stuff. Unfortunately, that also means Doug Peterson is a front runner for the New York Jets job.
Tell me how you feel about that.
Awful. Just I know he took Philadelphia, won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia, and maybe he could turn Darnold around. But I don't know. He seems like he such quit a on nutcase.
Here's the thing. I think, and they keep saying, he made that call. You just basically said you failed on your own player.
But it's worse than that. He did it because he was tired of being told what to do from the front office.
Right.
And then so he said. So I don't want any of that. Well, especially, have you seen the owner from the Jets? Lurie? It was giant news that the Jets owner finally went, I'm not going to be a part of the coaching decision because he's made such a mess of it.
What's funny, though, is the interview that Colin Cowherd did with Michael Vick. Did you know Jeffrey Lurie and Michael Vick played golf this past weekend, and Jeffrey Lurie was asking him all kinds of coaching questions. Never asked him anything about Peterson, but then mysteriously Peterson gets fired. I think it's just a little too late, But, you always have to answer to somebody for your coaching, so you've got to be able to take it. But, you don't put Sudfeld in there with a chance of winning. So
with Philadelphia now being open, are the Eagles now the best landing spot for a coach?
No, I don't think so. I still think Jacksonville is.
I still think the Chargers are, but I think Philadelphia is better than Jacksonville.
Well, the only reason I got Jacksonville is, they are going to have the number 1 pick, but I like your idea. I think the Chargers are great. I mean, you got a great quarterback in Herbert. You've got Eckler there. Bosa.
Honestly,
I like both of them.
I think if the Chargers had a decent head coach this year, they would have made the playoffs. They have that good of a team.
Well, yeah. Look how many games they lost by
Terrible
minimal
decisions. Raiders hired Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator. Speaking of defensive coordinators, the Dallas Cowboys have signed Dan Quinn, former Atlanta Falcons head coach, as their defensive coordinator. So I'm liking the coaching staff that's in Dallas right now.
Yeah, you got McCarthy, you got Quinn, and you got Moore. I mean, if you can actually get them to focus, and I think a lot of it, it's not just feed Zeke. I mean, I think the biggest hit was losing Dak. So I think I'm interested to see what happens, and can Dan Quinn turn that defense around from going where they were 2 years ago with Mike to Nolan to being garbage this year, to turn around and see if we can get back. Even if we get back in the top 15 with the defense, it would be nice for that.
And I like moves like that, where I don't like one head coach getting fired and then going right into another head coaching spot. I think get some new blood in a head coaching role for a team. But if you can get a head coach that just got fired and bring him back to whatever coordinator spot that he's good at, whether it's offense or defense. Todd Bowles is a fantastic defensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was not a good head coach for the Jets, but now he has head coaching experience, so he can help in a lot more areas than just the defense. But you let him then be able to focus in on what he's really good at, and you get magic. So I think Quinn going back to his roots and just focusing on the defense is going to be really good.
I think the same thing will happen with Patricia. I think that's the smartest thing to happen.
Yes, I want Patricia to be my defensive coordinator.
Yeah, after you and I talked, I went back and I re-looked and I looked at some of the stats from when he was just a D coordinator, and the numbers are just crazy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, you gave him a chance. He was part of the Belichick regime. All right, let's put him someplace. Where does he fit well?
Right.
And you and I talked, Patricia would fit well in with your Jets.
Right.
So it'd be interesting.
And then for you Seattle Seahawks fans, they made a couple moves this week. They re-signed or contract extension for their general manager, John Schneider. He is now there through 2027. Kind of like that move. He's made, other than the offensive line, he's made some good moves. He's given some weapons to Wilson, but oh man, they need it. We'll get to what happened to Wilson this weekend, but
he didn't cook.
The Seahawks have fired offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer, and from the Seahawks fans that I've talked to, they're all now rejoicing because even though they set a lot of records this year, they had a good offense, especially early on in this year, but it just fell off, and it just couldn't get going. Defenses figured them out. So Schottenheimer just got fired like an hour and a half ago from what I saw. Good riddance at this point.
So. I think so. They need some help on the O-line and get some focus there. If they don't, I think Seattle continues to melt down just like DK did there on Saturday.
And then for you Facebook and YouTube viewers, I'm going to try something a little different as far as the view. I want you guys to let me know what you think while I read this ad and kind of do our business. We're trying to mess around with some stuff. So there you go. So you are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 Lewiston. You can also check us out on the R&R Sports Report on Facebook and YouTube. Give us a like and subscribe and follow us there. That's where you can interact with us throughout the show. And also, we would like to say that here at KLCZ 88.9 FM, we're always looking for new student DJs. Spring semester starts next week to help us out in the airways filled with new music, original talk shows, and news. If you ever wanted to have your own radio show and are studying here at LCSC, we can get you on the air. Just stop by our office in the Student Union Building and pick up a volunteer DJ application or send an email to KLCZ Station Manager at lcmail.lcsc.edu to get started. And like I always say, if I can have a radio show, you can.
Ain't that the truth? If you and I can, it's like the old saying: if you can put lipstick on a hog, you can do anything, right?
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk AFC wild card.
First game of the weekend. It was a very, very good game.
Can I just say this? The weekend went the exact same Saturday and Sunday. The first game of the day was fantastic. The second game made you take a full-on nap. It was the worst game of the day each time. And then the third game was just Sunday was interesting, but it wasn't that great either.
Mm-hmm.
But it started out the same. The first game was fantastic, and the second game was god awful each time. But like you said, the first game on Saturday, the Buffalo Bills hold on to beat the Indianapolis Colts 27-24. Josh Allen, I know obviously the playoffs don't count as far as MVP stock goes, but if it did, this might have won him the MVP, as he has been just getting better and better throughout the year. 26-35 for 324, a couple touchdowns. Also led the team with 54 yards rushing and ran one in as well. His first touchdown to Dawson Knox was ridiculous. It looked like a Madden play. It looked like he was rolling out to try to run it in, runs into a defender, and then just jumps up and tosses the ball, and Knox falls down and catches it. Just was a ridiculous backyard football kind of play.
Exactly. He kind of rolls over himself, yeah. I think the biggest one, for me is got to be Frank Reich's decision. And after the game, I posted out on it. I was like, you get into the playoffs, you have to put points on the board. And Rich Eisen talked about it today too. We talked about the same thing. You have to take points. I think the mess up with that series, first and goal, was a great play. I mean, they just stuffed him. Second and goal, tried to do it again. Their third play call, though, we try to roll him out and then throw it. I think that was the stupid play. But after that, where you go 3 downs and you can't punch it in when you had it at the 2-yard line to begin with, take the points. And I understand that does affect, if you take the points there, yeah, that's going to change the scenarios down the road. But
anyone that goes, oh, they didn't kick the field goal and they lost by 3, that's why they lost, doesn't know how things work. Right. Nothing in the second half would have played out anywhere near the same if they had kicked the field goal.
But it's playoff time. You got to put points on.
Who knows if Blankenship even makes the field goal? He missed a short one later on in the game.
Right.
So, I agree with you. On that 4th down play, if they didn't lose the yardage on 3rd down, I go for it every time. 4th and 1, at the 1, you go for it.
Yeah, and I agree, but I think it goes back to the 3rd down call. That 3rd down call Frank Reich made was terrible. Was absolutely terrible. But, I mean, to lose by 3, you look at a couple of the play callings he did, even in the second half, it led a few questions about that. But Josh Allen's just that good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we agree. So I want to get your opinion on the other decision he made, because it ended up not mattering, but me and a buddy got into it a little bit. So we both agree going for it on 4th down from the 4 was the incorrect play. However, later on in the game, early on in the 4th quarter, the Colts are down by 14. They score a touchdown and go for 2. Do you agree with that or not?
All these coaches now are into the analytics and watch the numbers. What are the numbers? I'm sorry, that's still old school. You score a touchdown, kick the field goal. You're still down, only down 7 if that's the case, and you make the field goal. I put yourself in that scenario where you're possibly down 3 points if you score twice, which exactly happened.
So here is where I did not the field goal. They scored the touchdown.
Right, the extra point.
So here's why I totally agree with what the coach did, and I know a lot of people get all upset with it. Again, analytics, and people get all butthurt about it. But 2-point conversions are about a 50-50 chance, right?
Right.
As far as people,
like 42% or something.
It's right in there. Extra points obviously are down this year and over the last few years. Ever since they moved the extra point back, kickers have missed extra points on a far greater pace.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you rather go for it for 2 there and make it a 6-point game where no matter what, if you score again, it's now tied and the extra point gives you the lead? Or kick the extra point there, and now when you score, you still have to worry about one more extra point being messed up when they happen all the time this year to then tie the game. I like the chance of going for 2. If you don't make it, you're still down 8. That's still a 1-possession game. You just have to go for 2 again, which they did later on in the game to make it a 3-point game. And if you do make it, all of a sudden a touchdown and an extra point wins you the game. I think there's more benefit for going in that route, which Reich did, than going the safe route like you're talking about.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have agreed before they put the extra point back.
And if it was left where it was
where they're kicking it from the two.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm still old school. I'd rather play the tie if it happens to get there. So for me, I can see both ways, but I think I'd still rather have the chance of, tying it up instead of and getting into extras. I think that's the way to go. I don't think going for two there in that situation was the right call.
Either ways, it didn't really cost them the game. And again, anyone that says not kicking that field goal is the reason the Colts lost doesn't understand how football works and how the butterfly effect would have changed everything. Nothing plays out the same from there. It's not like it happened with a minute and a half to go. So I think it changes a lot of things. I'm surprised Buffalo still holds on to win. They got outplayed in most of this game. Could not run the ball. Their running backs only carried the ball 10 times in that game, which kind of worries me next week, as they will take on the Baltimore Ravens, who beat the Tennessee Titans 20-13 in a hard-hitting game. And we were both very, very wrong about the rushing totals in this game, as the Ravens completely were able to shut down Derrick Henry. He only gets 40 yards on the ground on 18 carries. Now I'm going to give you a minute to gloat for a second before I get on your team.
Well, the big thing I think is big factors there was the defense played together and hard, and having Ngakoue down there, having Calais Campbell along with Derek Wolfe, and you see those guys, and they were able to shut things down quite, especially hold the number one rusher in the NFL to 40 yards. It tips the cap to what those guys do. But to watch Calais Campbell mentor and to talk to the other guys and say, I like your play. You're able to do this. Let's do this together. And watching them, even in practice this week, you could see the flow was they were going to focus on Derrick Henry huge. So, but Lamar is getting to where he's playing back to the free-spirited and not being, almost told exactly where he needs to be going all the time. He was able to, those couple of rushes, 48-yard touchdown that travels 72 yards. But for him to do it between the tackles before he broke out, 20 yards down the field and then finally hit to the sideline, I mean, that just tells you he's starting to see things a little bit different. I do agree with what he needs to be doing. They were forcing him to have to look outside the numbers, and that's his big play. Everything he wants is inside the numbers. That's why he likes Mark Andrews the way he does. That's why he likes, throwing to Willie Snead in the middle in those routes. That's just Lamar and what he did the last 3 minutes of the ball game, managing the game, just tells me he's starting to grow up. And I think that's a big hats off to Greg Roman and John Harbaugh and what they're doing with those players. So.
And I think it's just going to get a little better for him, as now he's got that monkey off his back and getting the first playoff win, which still drives me nuts. He's only lost 2 playoff games.
Exactly.
It's not like the Cincinnati situation where they lose every single year. He's young. This is his 3rd year in the league, and everyone wants to freak out just because he won the MVP and then kind of had a dud last year. But I got to get on your team a little bit. I didn't like how they ended that game. Why in the middle of this game are you running out to go stomp on the Tennessee Titans logo? I know they stomped on your logo in pregame earlier, either this year or playoffs or whatever that was.
It was earlier in the year when they were there. So,
but why, with a minute to go, give yourself a 15-yard penalty where if Baltimore doesn't get that first down, you're still giving the Titans a decent field position? It just seemed not okay. I know the emotions are high for the playoff game, but they got to be able to control it a little better.
I don't know. I think they were just trying to make a point from the last time when Butler was out there doing his little thing from, when
then you do that pregame or postgame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you're in the heat of the moment. That's exactly the way they were talking. I mean, this all happened in the heat of the moment after the pick. Peters makes a great interception there, and heat of the moment, everybody comes out, and that's what they did.
Speaking of heat of the moment, no handshakes.
I
This rivalry is not that big. This is not Baltimore-Pittsburgh. They weren't fighting throughout the game. We didn't have ejections or anything. I just go out, shake their hand.
Yeah, I think they wanted to make a point, but they didn't want to. I don't know.
I hate the fact that Lamar Jackson came out saying we were the bigger guys at the end of it. That's why we went off the field. No, you weren't.
Well, they were kind of the same on both halves. They were both jawing at the beginning of the game too.
Of course, you're going to jaw before the playoff game. They're going to jaw a lot with Buffalo. You have a lot of buildup, and at the end of the game,
there's a lot of buildup from last year too.
We're going to get into a little hockey preview later in this episode.
I didn't bring my pads or anything to wear, so I can't. We can't.
But neither of us are huge hockey fans.
Why?
But you play up to 7 straight games against a team, and they're fighting for 60 minutes every single game, getting into fist fights. At the end of that game, they line up and shake each other's hands, and I miss that about sports.
Stupid COVID.
Not even that.
Well, you said COVID within the first 3 minutes of the show today, so.
But I'm not even saying that's the reason Baltimore did not go shake hands because of COVID.
And not everybody went running into the tunnel. Lamar did, yes, and I will give you
80% of the team went. There was one other player that had to be held back because he wanted to jaw at the end of the game. Yeah. Everyone else left.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's some of it is.
I want to respect your team, and they're making it tough. It is now 7:00, and once again we're extending football because we can't help but talk.
We're nowhere close yet.
Not even. What are we doing? It is 43 degrees outside. Wind is down to 10 miles an hour, so that helps. It is getting a little calmer out there. You're listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on 88.7 KLCZ 88.9 FM. And now let's get into the craziest game of the weekend. The game that we got wrong that surprised me the most. We went 4-2. We picked every game the same. We got 4 right, so I'm happy with it. But this one surprised me the most is the Cleveland Browns beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 48-37, and it wasn't even that close.
No, and the biggest one for me is they scored 28 points in the first 5 minutes of their possessions.
Yeah.
I think it was 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And Denise was sitting there with us as we were watching the game, and that's exactly what it said. It was like 5 minutes. 5:20 is what they were, time of possession, and they were up 4 scores.
Well, it helps that Pittsburgh's first 6 drives were a fumble for a touchdown, which we'll get to, an interception, a 3-and-out punt, an interception, a punt, and an interception. So you're getting great field position at all times, scoring on one of them. It was just such a crazy game. And I just want to say this. I congratulate Cleveland. They obviously deserved to win. They played really hard, and they've been working for this for years. They're their first playoff win since '95.
Something like that, yeah.
Against a team that I heard on a radio station the other day that Pittsburgh has finished ahead of Cleveland in the division standings every year since like 88, 87, somewhere in there. So obviously this was, the big monkey off their back. Right. To finally win a playoff game, and you do it against a division rival who's just owned you forever. However, I think Pittsburgh wins this game if they don't have that bad snap on the first play. That is such a gut punch for Pittsburgh. And you could see it on the players' faces, especially Big Ben and the center who I'm blanking his name on too, Pouncey. The moment that play happened, it was just ghost.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that happened in the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning and when Denver and Seattle. Yeah, I mean, same idea.
Only 2 other times I remember that ever happening in a playoff game, and both times the game just completely went one-sided. I still think Seattle was the better team than Denver that year in the Super Bowl, but they wouldn't have blown them out. Right. But there's not just a gut punch for the team that it happens to. Think of the momentum it gives to Cleveland. That here we are, we haven't won a playoff game since '95. We finally made our playoff game for 15 years or whatever it was, and all of that hype and build up, and then you're scoring on defense on the first play of the game. that momentum goes for a long time, and it went for at least the first half.
And what happened in that second half, and I don't know, the same thing happens when Baltimore gets up. I mean, they threw out prevent defense in the second half. I mean, Cleveland just kind of, they knew they had it in hand just by the way that Pittsburgh they were playing. They just,
and I have no problem with that, just for the fact that we get on teams when you're playing prevent defense up 1 score.
Right.
But I have no problem playing prevent defense when you're up 28-0 early and you're just trying to take out a giant chunk of time.
Exactly.
We want Pittsburgh, who is a dink and dunk team anyways, to take 4 or 5 or 6 minutes every drive.
And you notice Big Ben had his timing was just way off, and you could even see it in his face at the end of the game. Him sitting he just did not look like it was that shocked look after that first play. It was the same look on his face then as it was at the end of the game.
This the last Big Ben game?
No, I don't think so. I think he comes back for one.
Do you think how long until his arm feels okay? He threw 68 passes on Sunday.
I don't know. He's got to get his. I don't remember who I was listening to yesterday, but they've got to get their receivers in line. I mean, you got Juju there, you got Claypool, who has been decent, but after his comment he made on TikTok, he reminded me. And here's the thing: as soon as I saw that, and as soon as I saw how DK Metcalf was responding, the images of Terrell Owens started coming back in my mind. And I'm going to say it right now: if DK and Claypool have that kind of influences to the point where they're crybaby prima donnas, get your butt off the team. I don't want to deal with that. I mean, a bad loss. His quote, and I took a snap off of it, and he was quoted on his TikTok. He says, "Bad loss, but the Browns are going to get clapped next week, right. So it's all good."
It's not all good.
It's all good. Let me tell you. I mean, if that is the case. And right now, the line on that game, Cleveland and Chiefs game, we'll get to that, but the line on that is 10 points right now. Dude, Claypool, you just got your butt kicked, and you're going to still keep running your mouth. Dude, you're a rookie. Sit down. Let's get it over.
We'll
come back as a better
because
player.
He's a rookie and he'll build. But he doesn't have a good mentor in Juju, that's for sure.
No.
Who makes a fool out of himself left and right.
And the same with DK. I mean, you come back to the bench, throw me the dang ball, and you throw your helmet, and you get mad, and you watch him yell right at Russell. All I could think about in both of those instances was, all right, here we go, the next Terrell Owens.
Hopefully
now we got to deal with it.
Especially for Seattle. DK Metcalf, just the size of that guy.
Yeah. But Baker actually played a decent game. 21 of 34, 263, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he looked like he was managing the team quite well. I mean, I was excited to watch this game, and then all of a sudden 28 to nothing.
Yeah, I went off and did other stuff. That's for sure. All right, let's get to the NFC, and let's talk about those Seattle Seahawks. So I'm expecting a lot of comments in there, people. You guys have been quiet.
Where's Rob Knight?
Hopefully Rob's listening. We haven't heard from Rob all night. But I want to hear it here. It was a rough game for Seattle. This is the game I was disappointed I picked wrong. And I think if I knew Jared Goff was going to play, I was going to pick the Rams, even though Jared Goff did not start. Wolford started before he got hurt. And Jared Goff came in and did not play great. He was 9 of 19 with 155 and a touchdown. He was not the reason why the Rams won this game. Seattle came out flat. They looked, I don't want to say uninterested, because obviously you're not in a playoff game, but just out of sync. Russell Wilson looked like Russell Wilson from like 3 or 4 years ago, where he was just running for his life. He never looked comfortable in that pocket.
He's done that most of the season, second half of the season.
Second half of the season for sure.
He had his line, and I'm not trying to rip on the line or anything, but they've got to do something. I mean, you look at the age of some of those linemen, they're getting up there. I mean, that's where Seattle needs to go. And I know they don't have their first pick. They don't have a pick until midway of the second round, I think. But you've got to go line, or you've got to start trading and get some spots and get some decent line protection. Because if Russell is still going to stay and Cook, he needs to have time to throw the ball.
The Seahawks have a 2nd-round pick, a 4th-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and 2 7th-round picks.
Yeah, so you know right away they're going to be having to make big plays over the next, big decisions in those picks.
And it's got to be offensive line. I think running backs, I mean, they've had this year for Seattle was so rough as far as running backs go, because how many different running backs did they have to go out there with all of the injuries they had? And there were points where it was like the 5th string running back was going out there. So that's difficult, but their receivers are great. Their defense is okay. It obviously is not the Legion of Boom by any means, but I think they're middle of the road defense. They're fine. Russell Wilson is fantastic, but I mean, he gets sacked 5 times, probably got pressured 3 times as many times as that, and just did not look comfortable. And the Rams defense is so good. Aaron Donald is ridiculous. That it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, defense wins championships and everything, and they've got a great matchup when they take on the Green Bay Packers on Saturday, which I think is a fantastic game. But Seattle just looked outmatched, and once this game got going, I never thought they had a chance to win this game.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how everything transpired in that. They just need, and I think we were even going to take the points on that game if I remember right, because they were that much of a favorite. They should have handled business.
No, I wouldn't. No, just because I almost picked the Rams. It was just because of the quarterback situation that worried me.
But I think
for the Rams,
the defense, for the Rams is just
so good.
It's so good. I mean, Ramsey has been a great spot for him to come and play. And Donald looks like a stud, like he's probably going to be there for a couple more years. Need to get him one more D lineman, I think, and that defense will really be unbelievable.
All right, Tampa Bay beats the Washington football team 31-23. Not the most entertaining game, but Tyler Heineke, who came in, looked fantastic for just being thrown onto the COVID protocol team just in case things happen. And then obviously Alex Smith is unable to go. Dwayne Haskins makes a complete fool of himself and gets kicked. And here you go, Heineke, your first start is in the playoffs against a tough Tampa Bay team.
And a month ago, he was still finishing up his finals.
Right.
And for him to do what he did, I mean, for that man to go up against Tom Brady and keep it close, I mean, just hats off.
He had the ball late with the chance to come back and tie this game. And Antonio Gibson had just could not go anywhere. He's still coming off a little bit of an injury. And Tampa Bay was keying in on the running game. Just going a full-on Heineke, you have to beat us. He throws for 306 and a touchdown, and he does throw a pick. But Tampa Bay is too scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have Evans, Godwin, and Brown, and Brait, who for the tight end, who hasn't done much this year, coming back. All of them get at least 49 receiving yards. And it's just Tom Brady has so many weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And Gronk didn't even make a catch in this game. You don't have Ronald Jones at all. Leonard Fournette played pretty well. But at what point this is why Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, is this team was a quarterback away from making a run, and he knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And now here they are when they added in Gronk and Antonio Brown. That is just a ridiculous, just a feast for Brady.
I think the one player out of all those names that made the biggest impact, and it was on some third down plays, was Brait.
Mm-hmm.
Brait looked unbelievable where he was at. And it was just crazy to see him almost take the more important role from Gronk's hands to make things happen, because those were normal Gronk positions when he was in New England. I mean, it was to him, and for Brait to step up and make those, key catches there, third down, unbelievable player. I mean, and like you said, there's just way too many weapons on that team.
And then the Saints do beat the Chicago Bears 21-9. There's not much to say about this game. It was boring. I felt bad for the kids that had to watch it on Nickelodeon. At least it looked cool.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I went to the Walmart pickup. I had my groceries picked up during that time because I knew it was going to be a boring game, so I didn't want to really watch it. But I think hearing the numbers that came out today, 27 million watched the CBS version. 2 million watched the Nickelodeon version.
And that's okay.
And then that's okay. And that's what they were wanting. They were wanting to see if they could get the kids to watch it. And that, for me, it didn't really do any kind of change. I couldn't tell the difference. But I think the big thing for me is the play calling for it, because I was actually pretty excited to see who was in there. They had Nate Burleson in there, and they had Noah Eagle, and him doing that, and Noah Eagle being Ian Eagle's boy.
And that's who I thought the whole time was Ian Eagle that was going to do play-by-play.
Yeah,
Noah Eagle sounds just like him.
He does. I mean, Noah Eagle, and he's only 22. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the next day he was calling. They said he was calling a college basketball game there on Monday, and to see him call that game, his dad called the Saturday Indianapolis Buffalo game. I think I was more excited to see how he did, and you're exactly right. He looks like his dad, sounds like his dad, and the same with Collinsworth.
He's very good at it.
I mean, the same as Collinsworth. You see his kid being the extra. Oh, what do I want to say? NBC, the analysis there, All
right, so it's preview time. Let's get to it. And the crazy stat to me is the average age of the quarterbacks in the AFC. 24.9 years of age for Allen, Jackson, Mayfield, and Mahomes. That's the youngest average age for the quarterbacks in a conference divisional round history. In the NFC, if Jared Goff plays, the average age in the NFC is 37.2 years of age. So Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, and Goff. That is the oldest for a conference in the divisional round of play. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
and why I hate being a Jets fan who are rebuilding every single year when the AFC is stacked for 10 years.
Right. Well, and you look at that. I mean, how many records? I mean, you got two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. If in the top 5 all-time quarterbacks with Breeze and Brady. But could it be Brady's, or could it be Breeze's last time in New Orleans? I really
Breeze has a job at NBC waiting. He's ready.
Yeah. I don't know if he would. I don't know. His kids are still young enough. I would think he would probably take maybe a year off.
I don't know. I don't think NBC announces that last spring.
Yeah.
If it wasn't
100%
coming out next year, unless we have a Breeze retirement tour next year.
Could happen. I like that idea, though.
All right, let's get into it. Saturday at 1:35 p.m. Pacific time, you have the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers. Packers are a 6.5-point favorite at the moment. The last meeting was a couple years ago where the Rams beat the Packers 29-27 in a Week 8 matchup. And my question to you, who gets the better of it, the elite quarterback or the elite defense?
Well, it's probably going to be the elite quarterback. You look at temperature times up there, it's supposed to be like 20 degrees when they take and play. How good is Donald going to be? They're playing. They haven't really released 100% what his issue was. Mm-hmm. We know it's ribs, but you got Ramsey, but I don't know. You got two great running backs there in Green Bay. I think this might be a game that might be close for the first quarter, and then all of a sudden Rodgers takes over and just shows what he's made of.
Who do you got?
I'm gonna take the Packers. I mean, and right now the Packers are 6.5 favorite. I think it'll be a touchdown game.
Yeah, I'll go with you. I think it's really close, but I think the Packers pull it out.
Sad part is I don't get to watch this game. It's gonna be tough.
Well, I laughed because there's only one game this weekend that is being played while Haley's working, and it's her Packers.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to work, mm-hmm. So that's the bad thing, and so it's going to be tight. But I think I really think Green Bay is going to just go out and own, and it's going to be one of the last pushes there for the Packers. So
all right, 5:15 game. Your Baltimore Ravens go to Buffalo, who are a 2.5-point favorite, basically a wash. Their last meeting was last year, Week 14, where the Ravens beat the Bills 24-17. And we saw the Ravens and Titans have a hard-hitting game. But will this be the hardest-hitting game this postseason?
I don't think so. I think it'll be a physical game, but it's going to come down to Josh Allen running. It's going to be him. Calais Campbell and Wolf and the interior linemen's got to control him and keep him in the pocket, and make him beat us with his arm. I don't think the signing of Freeman is going to be as big.
No, it's just backup.
Yeah, it'd be backup. But who do you got there to run? You got Singletary,
Allen.
and Allen. That's pretty much how it is. And so I think if
Moss has not been playing that well anyway, so I'm not worried about his injury.
So I like Baltimore winning this one, but I think it's going to be more than 2.5.
Well, you would think. I'm going to go Baltimore. I've gone back and forth all day on this pick. I think this is the closest game this weekend.
I agree. It'll be the game of the weekend.
It'll be really good. Sunday, you have the Cleveland Browns at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 10-point favorite, which is ridiculous to me. They last played 2018, Week 9, where the Chiefs did win 37-21, but the Browns are just a different team. Now, my question to you, which is more important, the momentum that the Browns have had or the rest that the Chiefs have had the last 2 weeks?
I think it's going to come down to, how Cleveland comes out firing. I mean, they were told there was no chance they were going to beat Pittsburgh, and they've just played extremely well over the last few weeks. I think they keep the momentum. Do I think they win? I would sure like them to win. I would love an AFC North conference matchup, going into the Super Bowl. But I think Kansas City pulls it out, but I am a little nervous. The last, I want to say 4 or 5 games, Kansas City's only won by 7 points or less.
Yeah, it's been over 2 months that they haven't won a game by more than 7 points. I know Robert Taylor always gets on me that it doesn't matter. A win's a win, and in the playoffs, that's all that matters.
Right. So I'm gonna take the Chiefs, but if I'm in Vegas, which I might call Brian this weekend and say, "Hey, buddy, take Cleveland in the points, please," because I don't think 10 is absurd.
Well, there's Rob Nye saying nobody beats Kansas City. Where were you when we were ripping on your Seahawks, Rob? Come on, man.
He was sleeping probably.
So I am with you, though. I'm going to take Kansas City. To me, this is the NFL version of Alabama versus Ohio State. If Cleveland plays the perfect game, they can beat Kansas City. I told Robert Taylor, a buddy of mine, who's a huge Chiefs fan, this today when I was working on the notes. The first 5 minutes are going to tell me everything. Not that the fact that if Cleveland jumps on Kansas City, the game's over. But if Kansas City makes a mistake or something early, or Cleveland makes a big play and they feel like they're in the game, we're going to have a very fun game the rest of the way. If Kansas City comes out and hits a big one to Tyreek Hill, or Mayfield throws an interception early on, this game's over. Cleveland has to jump out early and get that momentum that they build with Pittsburgh to have any chance with this. 10, I think, is a little high for this, but with how much Kansas City scores, that could happen. But I'm going to take the Chiefs to win this game. And then your last game of the weekend, the two 90-year-olds going at it at 3:40 p.m. Pacific time. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. Saints are a 3-point favorite. Obviously, the Saints dominated Tampa Bay in Week 9 after winning a closer one in Week 1. It wasn't even really that close. I think the Saints really kind of dominated both, but they went 38-3 in this last meeting. And I looked this up because I was curious, do the first 2 meetings matter? So since 2002, which was a realignment, and we finally got to 32 teams, and we got to the 4 divisional teams in each division, there have been 7 times that a team swept another team in the regular season and then faced them in the playoffs. And in 5 of those times, they were able to pull off the 3-game sweep. You wouldn't think that's the case, just because you always hear it's so hard to beat a team 3 times. And since, I want to say it was like the 80s, I saw another stat, since like 1980, whatever, teams looking for that 3-game sweep have won on like a 68% clip. So for that case, I'm taking Tampa Bay to ruin that. I just, there's something about the Buccaneers and the amount of weapons that they have that I think is going to be tough for the Saints. I think obviously playing both of those first 2 games in the first 9 weeks before Tampa Bay had their bye week was telling. I think Brady and especially Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's a whole different player than he was when they were playing against the Saints as he was getting used to the offense. And you see that in the playoff game. I think it's going to be close. I worry about Breeze's injury stuff that he's been going through. Obviously, Michael Thomas isn't 100%. Kamara's coming off all the COVID stuff. I just think Tampa Bay wins this game.
It's going to be a close game. I really think, like we talked about earlier, it is the weapons that he has. But, you've got one of the top running backs for the last few years in Alvin Kamara. I think he's the difference maker for the Saints. If they can feed the ball, keep feeding it to Kamara, throw in an occasional Taysom Hill run, end around or something like that. But having Michael Thomas back is huge. He missed a few of those games in the middle. So if he had to weigh out a few of them, the receiving core, you're going to go with Tampa Bay. Running back situation, I'm going to go with Kamara on that one. So then you come back down to who does it match up with? Is it the GOAT? Is it the second GOAT? I mean, it's a weighing opportunity for both of them, which I highly respect. The 3-point favorite for New Orleans, and the only reason they're getting that is probably because they're in the Superdome. They will have a few players in there, and like I heard Bruce Arians talk about today, he was excited that there was going to be fans in there where there wasn't in game one, and so that's going to come back and play huge in that. He even made a comment. I like getting booed. I like hearing the cheers. That's what football is. That's what this whole year has missed.
Right.
I hated hearing the generated crowd noises. If that was the case, I would have loved to have heard the first week where there was nobody and just hear everything with the football field. But then, every 10 seconds you hear it bleeped out or something like that. Because
baseball learned that really quick.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bad words that you could hear.
Yeah.
From whatever mic that they had out there.
Exactly. So I think this is the only game you and I are going to disagree on. I'm going to take the Saints.
It's the first in the playoffs that you're disagreeing on.
I'm going to take the Saints. It's going to be an interesting game. So, but I think it will be a close matchup, 24-20.
And I will just say that there's only one Marquise Lattimore.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of targets for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, if I get all 4 picks right, our mid-season predictions, my AFC and NFC championship games would be exactly what I picked.
Really? I have to go back and look at that.
All right, you're listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on 88.9 KLCZ Lewiston. You can also check us out on the R&R Sports Report Facebook and YouTube pages. And at some point, I promise I will get the smaller snippets of the episode out. Again, last week, I just didn't like the sound quality of stuff. And obviously, there was a lot of real-world stuff going on that distracted me on Wednesday. We're not getting into that here. But I'm going to be working on it this week and try to split things up for people that missed the show or can't watch us live and wanted to see small chunks instead of a 2-hour block. So we'll work on that.
LCSC students, did you know that there's an organization on campus that wants to pay you for your writings? Well, there is. The Pathfinder newspaper is always looking for talented student writers to join their team for coverage on campus, comings and goings, LC Warrior sports, and other news that affect students here on campus. Stop by the sub 201 or email the Pathfinder at lcmail.lcsc.edu for more information or to join the team.
And just so you know, Robert, your 2 picks at midseason were Green Bay versus Tampa Bay and Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. So, unfortunately, you've already lost that one.
Yeah.
All right. So, once again, football hour turned into football hour and a half. So, now we have a lot to talk about.
There's a ton.
So, we will try to blow through this as quickly as possible while still, giving these sports love, especially LCSC, who the men had a week.
Wow,
they were in Arizona and played 4 games down there, ended up going 3-1, beat Benedictine Mesa 83-56 on Wednesday. On Sunday, they beat Park from Arizona 76-50, but the 2 big games were Friday and Saturday against number 5 Arizona Christian. I watched the Saturday game. I had meant to watch the Friday game, and it was a 2:00 start, and at 3:30 I remembered. So I missed out on it. I did not like the Arizona Christian court is weird. It was like a little tent that they put around this basketball court, and you had like 3 rows of seating. It was all for this team, and it's the number 5 NAIA team in
Was
the
it
country.
outside?
No, it might have. I don't know how that all worked. It almost looked like the old tent in for Clearwater Casino way back in the day, is what it kind of looked like to me. It was just a weird way to look at it, and the way the camera worked was interesting. But Arizona Christian did win the first game, 81-76. It was a good back and forth game. Arizona Christian they jumped out to an 8-0 lead. LCSC turned it right back around and led 24-14 about halfway through the first half, and did lead by 2 going into halftime. Just could not keep the momentum going, and Arizona Christian pulled out by a little bit in the second half. Ends up a 5-point game, but Khalil Stevenson had a fantastic game with 19 points. Tristan Bradley, who's been fantastic, scores 18 as well. He went 4 for 5 from 3 in that game.
Can we just say because he came on the show?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, even I'm going to blank on her name now. Thank you.
Nice.
Me and names today.
Jalen Hurts is still on your mind.
Is it?
It must be
something
like that.
But we'll get to the women's side, and I'll look that up. So Abby,
Is
that who? Yeah,
Abby Johnson.
Abby Johnson. Sorry, Abby. I apologize if you're listening. Me and names today just don't work. But the second game on Saturday, the one I watched, LCSC jumped out pretty good in the first half and just held on. They were up 19 at one point in the second half, ended up winning 88-79, even though Arizona Christian got it back within 5 with about a minute to go. Nathan Fromm had a fantastic game, 19 points. And Demick Mitchell and Jake Albright both with 17. Albright also gets a double-double out of that with 11 points. And Albright, I have to say, the Arizona Christian play-by-play guy, both hated and loved Jake Albright. As far as his intensity made him mad just from how good he was playing. But so there was a lot of times I felt like the Arizona Christian play-by-play guy wanted to cuss out Jake Albright. That was just for how intense Jake was playing. But it was a great game by LC, as they do split with a number 5 team from Arizona Christian. I think there's a firestorm. So we see if we get any kind of a rematch there once tournament time ever happens, because we're still waiting for conference play to happen for the men. On the women's side, they finally got to play again, as they played Saturday against the College of Idaho. It's their first game since December 20th, and they routed the College of Idaho 75-39. Sarah Muehlhausen led the way with 14 points. She's a 6'3" sophomore from Hayden. One of those players that doesn't get a ton of play right now, but when they were up that big, she played a lot in the second half and played very well. They held the College of Idaho to 23 1/3 shooting percentage in that game. Great defense by the women. They had a game that was supposed to go on today at Whitworth. I found it funny because I had switched over to this game at one point just to listen to the audio. And they were talking about this game, and they even said there's a breaking news that the LCSC game against Whitworth on Tuesday is canceled. I didn't even realize it was happening because obviously everything's changing. So the next games for the women are Friday and Saturday, January 15th and 16th, versus Simpson from California. I want to say that is on the road.
I believe it is.
The men will play here at LC on Saturday, January 16th, when they take on the College of Idaho at 5 p.m. The women's games at 6 p.m. on Friday and 2 p.m. on Saturday. All right, Robert, your turn. Let's get some local sports.
Now, some local happenings going around here from last week. The LHS boys had a tough week. They lost a couple of games, both to Lakeland and to Post Falls. They fall to 6-3 on the season, 3-2 in conference play. Playing there Tuesday night as we were wrapping up here, lost to Lakeland 61-46. Just an ice cold second half and tough, and even against Post Falls, they just couldn't get anything going in the second half as Post Falls went on a 9-0 run and Lewiston just could not catch up. They end up losing that one on Friday night, 57-45, at the new gymnasium up on Lewiston campus. Tonight's game with Coeur d'Alene got canceled or postponed late for COVID stuff. So JV freshmen and then the girls games were going on up in Coeur d'Alene, but the only game that does get canceled out of the whole group is the boys varsity. We'll see if that gets made up. Looking ahead, Lewiston will be at Moscow on Saturday, and then Lewiston will take on Lake City next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Tips on both of those as they are on the road. LHS girls still struggling this year, 3-7, and they are now 1-6 in conference play. They lost to Lakeland 46-30, only on 16 shots total taken. So
Idaho, can we get a shot clock, please?
I'd love to have a shot clock in Idaho. I've talked about that, calling basketball games as we called for many years. We'd do a night in Clarkston or a night in Washington and have that 30 or 35 seconds, and then we travel over to Idaho, and then all of a sudden dribble, and not have a shot clock for forever. So, and then the girls end up losing. Just had some cold shooting and a lot of turnovers, and Post Falls gets out to a quick lead, and they end up losing that game 39-31. They were in action here a few minutes ago. I know they were shifting times around. We have not got a text yet about scores for the Coeur d'Alene game going on. And again, Lewiston will play Moscow and Lake City this next week.
All right. And let's go to the NCAA. Talk about Gonzaga for a second.
Oh, Gonzaga is still out in front, getting 63 of the votes. No change in the top five. Gonzaga and Baylor getting that one vote again. Villanova, Texas, and Iowa. Gonzaga now 12-0 on the season, 3-0 in conference play. Defeated BYU this last week, 86 to 96. And then they also handled business against Portland, 116 to 88. I'm more interested in the next two games that are coming up on Thursday and on Saturday as the Bulldogs get ready to face Pepperdine. It is an afternoon tip, 2 p.m. on Thursday, and then Saturday is a 5 p.m. tip. Very interested to see how things go on that one. Gonzaga women move up the standings. They are now up to number 20. They are extending their winning streak. There are 9 in a row, and they are 10-2 this year so far.
And I keep saying one of Gonzaga's losses there was against South Carolina.
Right.
Fantastic. So the women are very good for the Bulldogs as well. For WSU, they split their games this week, beat Cal 71-60, did lose to Stanford 75-60. So 9-2 now on the season, 2-2 in conference, which is respectable, I think, for the Cougars. Not a lot of high hopes really for the WSU men this year as they've been building stuff. They do go on the road, play 2 games this week. Thursday at 2 p.m. they take on UCLA. And then Saturday in a late 6:30 p.m. tip, they'll take on USC. But the story is the Washington State Cougar ladies, who are now 7-1 on the year, 5-1 in conference, and are ranked number 25th in the AP poll. So you get Gonzaga and Washington State over there on the women's side. They've won 4 in a row. We're defeated number 7 Arizona in overtime, which the men should have done last week, but we talked about that already. Great buzzer beater by Charlize Lee. How do you say her last name? Walker?
Leaguer Walker, yeah.
As they were able to beat the Wildcats. They were supposed to play Arizona State, but that got postponed. They will also play USC and UCLA in their next 2 games. USC on Friday at 4:30, and then UCLA on an early 11 a.m. tip.
Yeah, and then we get into Idaho, and I don't know what to say about Idaho right now with the men. Lose another couple games down in southern Utah, 85-80, and then 83-67 there on Sunday. Just not finding any offense. Hard to replace Trayvon Allen,
right?
And that it's tough to be watching that. They are going to be back in action up at the Kibbe Dome. They'll be playing on Thursday and Friday, or Thursday and Saturday, both games against Northern Colorado. 6 p.m. tip for Thursday game, 12 noon tip on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see if they can get things turned around anytime soon. Idaho and Vandal ladies are 6-4, 5-1 concert. Currently second in the Big Sky, 1 game back of Idaho State. They're on a 2-game win streak. They beat Southern Utah in back-to-back games, both again on Friday and Sunday, 69-64 in game 1 and game 2, 77-61. And again, they are playing Northern Colorado, but they'll be in Colorado playing those games. Also, 5:30 tip time on Thursday and 11 a.m. tip time on Saturday. And I know Rob made a comment that Greg did get his first points for Gonzaga this last game. So congratulations to Ben Gregg. He is the newest guy to join the Zags basketball team. So looking for a great season to continue with these guys.
Bulldogs have been so good. All right, sir. It's now time for the most amazing NHL preview you've ever seen ever in your life. For two guys that I used to watch hockey in the early 2000s. I'm trying to get back into it. I've already declared I was a Buffalo Sabre fan growing up when I was into hockey. I haven't watched hockey a ton in the last few years. Me and a buddy used to play the NHL hockey video game and do franchises. So that's the only reason I knew players about 10 years ago. Most of them have since retired.
I like going. The only reason I follow hockey is I like going to Chiefs games. You know, we've watched a couple of times. Mm-hmm. Hurry up! Let's get us into phase 2, and when we can go up and maybe watch a couple games.
But I have already declared that I will be a Seattle Kraken fan when they join the NHL next year, just because the Kraken name is really cool to me. It'll be the first Seattle team I actually root for, which will be weird. But I do have to say I like what the NHL is doing this year, as they've had they're trying to shorten things up, so because they're hoping next year is normal enough that they can go back to their normal schedule. So they've split it up into 4 divisions. All of the Canadian teams are in one division because obviously Canada doesn't want players traveling back and forth and all of the protocols there. So they've made them all one division. You're going to play 56 games schedule. You only play teams in your division. So you'll play everybody 8 times. For the North and Canada, you'll play teams 9 or 10 times just to even things out. And then the top 4 of each division make the playoffs. Those 4 teams will play a little 4-team tournament to figure out the winner of that division overall, which will leave us your final 4, and then they will reseed those 4 and have a 4-team playoff to figure out the Stanley Cup champion, which I love now that we're not going to have Eastern Conference and Western Conference. It'll mix things up a little bit and make it a lot of fun. So, again, trying something different, college football.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they need, just some different way to look at to get there, but that's not New York.
Sorry, Rob. I am, Rob. I'm trying to get back into hockey, so blame hockey for it.
Well, I got back into hockey at about 5 p.m. tonight. Seriously, on the NHL side, it's just one of those sports that never follow very much, and I'll go watch a live game. Yeah, give me that. So, all right, sir.
So we're division winners. We'll talk about later. We have them posted for Prosperity, but it's 7:43 already. We got some other stuff to talk about. So, Robert, give me your Stanley Cup Finals and champion.
Stanley Cup Finals. I'm gonna go out on a limb. It's gonna be Philadelphia taking on the Colorado Avalanche, and the Avalanche win it.
And I'm gonna go to the Tampa Bay Lightning, last year's winner, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, who are the latest expansion team before Seattle. They jumped out huge. I like the expansion draft for the NHL.
I'm gonna have to message Travis and Sarah and get in a little bit of information. That's
there you go.
I can do.
And I am going to have the Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. And because we're both experts in the sport, you should go put all of your money on these. No, don't do it. Don't blame us. All right, quick NBA update. As I go back to my banner, there we go. Robert is pulling away and now has a 5-win lead. My teams are 74-77. Robert's are 79-76. Still pretty close as we kind of expected. The only really big news is all COVID stuff for the NBA. Chicago and Boston got called off today after Miami and Boston got called off on Sunday due to COVID stuff. 4 Mavericks have COVID right now, as well as some of their travel team players. So their game on Monday against the Pelicans were postponed as well. And then the big one and the more interesting news is Kyrie Irving, who has missed now 4 straight games as he missed the game today. And he's not expected to play Wednesday against the Knicks or Saturday against the Magic. Was seen on social media dancing in a family birthday party event, which the NBA has said you can't go to clubs or bars or lounges, and don't go to social gatherings of more than 15 people because obviously they want their season to continue. They don't have the bubble like they had for the playoffs. And obviously Kyrie was shown no mask, and he's out for personal reasons right now anyways. It wasn't an injury or anything. So it's just really – Kyrie's just a weird guy anyways. He thinks the earth is flat. But not a good look for Kyrie as the NFL is now looking into that. It's a mess. It's a total mess, and that's why I'm glad I'm a Knicks fan, not a Nets fan, because I'm so used to the pain, and we don't have to be confused by anything, apparently. MLB news I have to get to because that was a big trade that happened this week that made me really, really sad. I wanted Francisco Lindor as a Yankee so bad, but he's going to New York.
The wrong New York
is he and Carlos Carrasco ended up going to the New York Mets for Andres Jimenez, Ahmed Rosario, Isaiah Green, and Josh Wolf.
That kind of hurt your chances, didn't you?
For what?
That kind of hurt your chances as a Yankee fan there with that.
Not really. I just wanted it.
Well, I think
Yankees are so good.
I think he could have been
the Yankees' chances get hurt if we don't get DJ back.
Yeah.
I look at that news every single day. I just want DJ back. That's all I want as a Yankee fan. And a pitcher. Give me a pitcher and DJ back, and I don't care. But the Mets, though, look loaded, which they're going to battle with the Braves and the Padres and the Dodgers now as that top team in the National League. Their lineup's going to include Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, J.D. Davis, and Jeff McNeil. That's a fantastic 4. They're really good. And now with Carrasco in there, even though you have Noah Syndergaard who can just not stay healthy, and he either misses all of next year or most of next year with his elbow injury. But their rotation is DeGrom, Stroman, who they got from Toronto already, Carlos Carrasco, Seth Lugo, and Steven Matz. That's a great.
I think that is probably on a grade. I would put that like an A- and probably one of the top 2 starting rotations going into the season.
And now you have Edwin Diaz, who's hit and miss as a closer, and Dylan Betances, who's good. Mm-hmm. So you have a decent bullpen as well. The Mets have a fantastic team. Liam Hendricks also signed with the Chicago White Sox for a 3-year deal with a 4th-year club option. Hendricks guaranteed $54 million. Last time,
I'm going to draft the Mets right now. Put me on record now. I'm taking the Mets.
We'll get to that. We got a little bit of that. And then, of course, the sad news this week, Tommy Lasorda passes away at the age of 93. I always say when you hit that kind of age, it's more just memories and stuff. He lived a good life, but it was nice to go through and watch a lot of clips of him. One of the best personalities in baseball, for sure.
I think the coolest picture that I've seen, of the entire thing is watching him walk away in the picture of Field of Dreams. I mean, that just signifies everything about that man. The couple of things, I mean, you could talk about him as a manager all you want and how he did. I was more shocked when I started doing some of the research on how he was as a left-handed pitcher. He wasn't all that good as a pitcher. I mean, he pitched 54 and 55.
Those that can't teach.
Yeah, and
Robert.
I know. Hence, I guess that's me. I mean, he started 6 games. He went 0-4. He had a total of 58 innings pitched, and he had a 6.48 ERA. I mean, it's just a little.
What's your favorite moment of Tommy Lasorda?
For me, I think and there's 2 of them. I think the main one, I think I have to say it when he was in Seattle when it was the All-Star game in Seattle in 2001.
Is that when he got hit by the bat?
I think so.
That's my favorite memory.
Yeah, I think that was here.
Just saying Lasorda go down. Yeah. I don't know why that's the one that sticks in my head. But just a great personality that we lost this week, and and sad to see him go. So we wanted to mention that there. It would be longer, but football took up all our time.
Yeah.
It is now time, though, the terrible segue, but it's now time for the sports you do not normally hear on the radio. Golf is back.
Golf is back. Harris English beats Joaquin Neiman in a playoff hole to win the Century Tournament Championship. He shoots 25 under. Justin Thomas 24 under, and Bryson DeChambeau 20 under. English does make $1.34 million in that one. The next tournament coming up will be on Thursday, the Sony Open. That's when we should see our first glimpse of Joel. Joel and
Gino, I think,
Gino
are headed down there, or already there.
I think they're already there. So big name in that one. Also, the Masters plans on having some limited attendance in April, so that's a good sign for the Masters coming out.
You think we can get media passes for that?
I would love to.
Are we media yet?
I think we need to say. I think we need to say something to Gino. Maybe Gino can get us in. No, somebody. Gino, if you're listening,
I think Gino's more focused on them getting in.
Yeah, I think so too. So maybe we can hopefully get them in one of these shows and have them on again as they get ready to tour around. Also, and the other one, we'll just hit on it really quick. The 2022 PGA Championship is leaving Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New York. So they'll be looking for a new place to play the championship in 2022.
And that's all we will say about that. Also, some great bowling news. Geneva Santos last night, well, the 299,
great,
717 series. I've bowled with her and against her many times up there at Orchards.
Yeah, great family. Great family. She married into some bowlers. Everybody. I mean, she's out on the lanes all the time. So congratulations.
Her and her sister are always at Orchards. I mean, even when they're not bowling, I see them all the time. And then the big one, it happened here while we were recording, maybe just after I got the news. But Hank Weaver last Tuesday night shot his first 300 since breaking his back about 10 years ago. If you know Hank or just want an emotional moment that you want to watch, go to the Orchards Lanes Facebook page. They have a clip of his 12th strike. Very emotional moment. Our buddy David Doofenberg was up there, said he was brought to tears from it all. Just everything that Hank has gone through.
Oh.
He's such a great guy. And I love both of them. Not somebody that you can take seriously sometimes. He will flip you a lot of crap if you're not careful, and has no problem calling it out. The moment Doof told me that he went over and congratulated Hank, and Hank's words back to him were, "I just wish it was against you." Which that's Hank.
I think I still hold the record of as many 300s have been thrown against me.
I don't want to hear it.
I've had some big names thrown against me.
I'm still trying to get one against you.
I know.
All right, sir. It is now time for your moment. It is This Week in Sports History, and make it quick.
It's going to be a short one, this one, then, so we'll get through it. January 7th, 1927, the Harlem Globetrotters play the first game in Hinckley, Illinois. This one you might like. 1994, on that same day, Tonya Harding wins the U.S. Female Figure Skating Championship one day after Nancy Kerrigan is hit in the back of a leg. You remember where you were at when that happened?
I was 10.
Yeah. January 8, 1962, Hall of Famer Jack Nicklaus makes his first professional appearance and tied for 50th place in the L.A. Open. 2000, the Music City Miracle. Tennessee Titans defeat the Buffalo Bills in the last 16 seconds and win that one 22-16. We'll keep it that same day, January 8th, 2012, the 3-16 game. That's where Tim Tebow throws an 80-yard TD pass to Demaryius Thomas to beat the Steelers 29-23.
And every year I make fun of Mike Mitchell.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. 1996, Jimmy Johnson announced he was the new coach of the Miami Dolphins. Billy Martin, your man Billy Martin, 1983.
Bring him up every week.
He was New York Yankee manager for the third time.
That's all we do.
Yeah.
Billy Martin was fired on this day. Billy Martin was hired on this day.
You got so many people there. 1999, Marty Schottenheimer resigns as the head coach from the Kansas City Chiefs. And January 12th, 1992, NCAA basketball game was played. The Troy St. Trojans defeat the DeVry Hoyas in the largest points game ever, 258 to 141. No, that is not a typo. 258 to 141. And January.
Did they play with 4 basketballs?
They must have. I
need to look this up.
Yeah, it was quite interesting as I was reading it. Also, January 12th, 2013, I have to bring it in. The Mile High Miracle. Baltimore Ravens tied the Denver Broncos with 1:09 left on a 70-yard TD pass from the guy I don't like. Joe Flacco to Jacoby Jones. The Ravens go on to win that game in double overtime and win the Super Bowl as a 4 seed.
Yeah, don't lie. You are wacko for Flacco. That's for sure. But it is now time for you to stump Randy. I've won 2 in a row. I've been good, and I will go ahead and just answer yes. Troy State versus DeVry was the highest basketball game. That's the correct answer. Right?
No.
Okay.
All right, here we go. And I kept it in within a few years. It's only 21 years old. All right, the Music City Miracle happened in Tennessee, defeated the Buffalo Bills in the last 16 seconds. In order, who touched the football for Tennessee in the Music City Miracle?
Wycheck's part of it.
No, I said in order.
And I'm trying to think. I can't think of the lineman that touched it first, but it's Wycheck to Dyson, right?
Yep.
I just don't know the lineman.
It was not a lineman.
The bigger guy. I just know Wycheck throws it to Dyson. I just don't know who.
How many yards was it for? Do you remember that? That was the bonus part.
72?
Close, 75.
Okay.
It was Lorenzo Neal.
Oh, that makes sense because it was right on the line.
Lorenzo Neal to Frank Wycheck and to Kevin Dyson.
Lorenzo Neal, the fullback, huh?
Yep, 75 yard. Yeah, 75 yards.
I knew Wycheck to Dyson. I just remember that. You see that all the time. And then there's no flags on the field. It's a great call.
I'll give you a half.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'm taking it. So, I know your answer. Give the people.
Wait, why is she booing already? That's what I want. Why, Haley? Why are you booing? Just because I give him a little props
for the half a point?
Half a point, yeah.
I was really close on the bonus. I got 2 of 3 right, and he only gives me half. I got 67% of it right, and I only got half. That's a boo. That's what I get.
I got a feeler.
Tell the people. What you're going to watch this weekend. Give them a game.
Oh, you know what game? I have to. It's going to be Buffalo and Baltimore. It is the game of the weekend. As much as I want to say it was going to be Brady.
Because I couldn't answer the question. Okay.
But I've got to go Baltimore and Buffalo. Baltimore has to run the ball. They've got to get the ball to J.K. Dobbins, get Gus Harris a few more touches. And Lamar, the only thing I worry about is it is supposed to snow. It's supposed to be a major snowstorm come through on Friday night. So it'll be interesting to see how Lamar runs in the snow.
I was trying to look for a hockey game that would be fun. You got Washington and Pittsburgh on Sunday at 9 in the morning. If you want to watch a hockey game before football gets going on Sunday.
I might.
But for me, it's Tampa Bay and New Orleans. The 3:40 game on Sunday, I think, will be really good. Their combined ages like almost 90.
Did you see the pictures that they photoshopped? That was pretty good. I'll have to see if I can find it. I'll put them on there.
So that's the one for me, and it could be the last game for one of them, if possible. I don't know if Tom Brady retires. I do think Breeze would, so it'd be really interesting. He will never win Sports Jeopardy. Haley, I've won the last 2.
I'm just trying to be nice. Well,
maybe she's thinking of the Dan Patrick Show. Is that game still going?
I think it is. I think they're doing it.
We're going to have to stream ourselves playing that game at some point. I've also thought we should stream us playing Madden when we figure out the Super Bowl matchup. And we should stream us playing the Super Bowl matchup.
But I thought you didn't play Madden anymore.
I haven't played Madden since we played it 2 years ago.
That's been a
and I'll still beat you.
You probably will.
All right, that's going to do it for this week, the 15th edition of the R&R Sports Report, and the last edition of my Christmas break as I go back to school next Tuesday. So we will see how all of that will go. And for all of the other Warriors out there listening, good luck in your spring semester coming up. Good luck to all of the NFL teams getting ready for their divisional matchups with 4 great games this week. And we hope everyone out there has a fantastic week. We will be back here once again Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time on KLCZ 88.9, on Facebook at R&R Sports Report, and on YouTube at R&R Sports Report to talk about all of those games, more coaching news. I'm sure Warriors are playing a bunch, a lot of college basketball. Hockey gets started, basketball is getting things going, and anything else we can think of. But for now, for Robert, I'm Randy. We had a fantastic time, but we are